Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. Today we are going to focus on Ficus Microcarpa. I brought two specimens of this variety today. The first one you can already see right here. The goal is simply to give you an idea about this species and how to maintain it basically and care for it once you bring it into your home. So I will simply take those two example trees and go through what things you can work on and look at when you have that tree in your collection and just want to maintain it throughout growth season as it is right now. So just to give you an idea on this first Ficus Microcarpa here, this is actually the oldest one I have in my collection. I've had this for several years now. I have experimented quite a lot on it, as probably becomes quite visible when we take a look around this tree. You can see a lot of roots that I've taken out from this tree. It used to be actually quite high in here, so I would say it was actually double the amount of root system here exposed beforehand. I actually over the years decided to pot it deeper in and cut out some of the lower roots of those very bulbous roots to simply give it an impression of a more traditional tree. I would say we're not fully there yet. You can see a lot of those bulbous roots here right now still, but gradually I want to remove those and probably stick only with this root here and give it then simply the look of a well-established tree, but going a bit away from this very obvious look of a ficus ginseng that you often find with those bulbous roots. I also worked a lot on the foliage. You can see there is wire on this tree right now. And of course I also periodically prune this little guy back here, work on the ramification of the branches. I'm quite happy with how this is going along on most branches, but probably the first thing we're going to do right away is this branch right here, which has not ramified at all yet, so we don't see any branching out happening here. That is something I want to tackle today, and this is actually quite easy to tackle by pruning back to some older part of this branch, and that should encourage this tree then to bifurcate, so to branch out here. So which direction we want to grow this in the future, because that is also how we should then decide on the exact space where we want to cut it back. So I think it is good if it grows a little bit in this direction, so very much mimicking the other side here. So we'll look for a leaf pair that is already like showing also in this direction, which means probably here is a good spot to cut back. I'll leave a little bit of a stump on there, so just to make sure that we don't damage the leaf node here, so it can grow new leaves from this spot. And we took a bit of foliage out here. The foliage itself on this tree looks very healthy. We will later on see in the other specimen that is something that I'm a bit concerned about there. But here, if we go through the leaves, we can see they all are nicely green. I don't see any signs of any infections or any pests on here. So doing very well, this tree. I have recently repotted this into inorganic soil as well, and since then it has been doing really well. So quite healthy, quite happy with this tree. One thing I can still see here is, and that often happens with especially this Ficus Microcarpa, is that we get growth down here from this root mass, the exposed root mass. And important to know is that this tree is grafted. You can see it right here. So they grafted a different variety onto this root mass, simply a variety that gets smaller foliage and also more compact and just a dense foliage. And sadly, that is not the case for the foliage forming down here from the trunk line. So I will always go in and simply remove any growth I see starting here, because the growth in itself isn't coming in nicely. It's simply a different variety. It already starts to show a little bit here. First of all, the leaves are not really forming that well in this case, but they tend to get way bigger than that normally. So they get way bigger than the foliage up here and very far in between the leaf nodes. So it looks a bit laggy also then. So not the nicest looking tree otherwise. So that's why I always take them back. In the future, I will also work a little bit about getting some of these stumps better cleaned up still here. You can see, for example, the stump right here. Simply also working a bit on the view of the trunk. Once this has fully died back, we also will work a little bit on this wound here, clean it up a bit nicer still. But I think for now, for this tree, this is all that has to be done. I don't want to do any tip pruning or anything. I want to let this grow a little bit wild actually, except for of course here where we didn't see any ramification. But all the other growth I'm very happy with. You can see how dense it is coming in here. Great pads that are being created here right now. So no need to further prune this back. So that is some of the maintenance I would simply do when I look at a tree like that. Just take a look around, look at the different aspects of the tree, as I said, soil, you look at the overall health of the tree, and then at the structure of the tree if you see any apparent design flaws that you can keep in mind and also tackle right away, for example, as we did here with this branch. And always keep in mind, of course, the overall vision you have for the tree in the future and how you want to develop this tree. For me, for example, for this tree, it is to really work on the foliage a lot still. I want to again create more of a canopy up here again to give it also a triangular shape. Right now I only spread out these branches here to give basically the first layer here, but we will have to develop something also on top here again. But I think we're on a good way here with a lot of new growth also showing up already on this tree. But so much for that tree, let's move on to the next one. So, and here we are back with the second Ficus Microcarpa I wanted to showcase today. And I wanted to showcase this because this tree is not as healthy as the other one, I would say. You can see some problems that are apparent on this tree, and we will talk about them a bit more in detail. I can see some dieback has happened here, and I can actually see here in the soil there is some dead leaves collecting. So there has been some dieback on some of these lower branches here. I think at one point I might have overwatered it a little bit, especially as there was a bit of a cold spell then here and the soil simply stayed moist for too long. That did affect this tree a little bit. So looking around, I can see also here a bit of dieback. However, here the tips are again coming in green, so there's new growth happening. However, that was definitely a problem on this tree. Other than that, one big thing I can spot right away is that the leaves don't look as healthy as on the other tree. I can see a lot of browning also at the lower part of the leaves, and I'm not quite sure if that actually could be a sign of some sort of fungal infection or a pest on this tree. So we're going to take a closer look at that, and I see on a lot of those leaves we have on the lower part of these leaves those brown markings, especially on the newer leaves. And I think that has to do with two different things. Again, what's said before is like the slight overwatering that happened. So I would suspect that some of these leaves will still die back. However, I also think this could be a sign that we do have a nutritional problem in this tree. I think when it comes to feeding, I need to have a closer look at this tree. Probably I need to feed a little bit more than what I have done right now during growth season. I think I've neglected this a little bit on this tree, and this shows with signs of nutrient deficiency right here, because I think as I don't spot any other really pests that could be the reason for this. So I think we can conclude that this is probably due to a nutritional deficiency, especially also by seeing the lack of coloring on many of those leaves. So they start to yellow a little bit from the middle, which often can be a case when we look at not enough nutrients in this soil basically that the tree has access to. So I will, right after this video, fertilize this. I normally use liquid fertilizer. Normally in the growth season I do it every 2 weeks. However, I think with this one I have missed it the last time I did fertilize most of my trees, so it has gone quite a while without fertilizer. It's also the case that in many of my inorganic soil mixtures I have right now, I do have some, not liquid fertilizer, but those little fertilizer pebbles, which of course then means I don't need to liquid fertilize on them. I think that could be the reason why this one hasn't been fertilized in a while. So it is quite a good reason to check up on your trees regularly and see what you can spot on those trees, because if we catch it right now and I can take any countermeasures to this nutrient deficiency, of course this will benefit the tree overall, and I think we can go back to it being quite healthy looking then in the future. This one has always struggled a little bit with nutrients. I feel like the soil, it's an old soil mixture I have used back in the day, mainly consisting of clay pebbles. I think it is a bit too inorganic. It doesn't hold the nutrients as well, so it washes out quite fast. And I think that is the problem, that this soil mixture simply doesn't give the tree enough nutrients over time, because it simply washes out with the next watering. So we might even repot this in the not too far away future. But as this tree is not as healthy yet as I would have hoped for during growth season, of course I won't work on it any more today. We won't prune it back or wire it or anything like that, because right now we simply are focused on gaining back the health on this tree. But yes, two very similar trees, of course, as they are the same species, but very different states right now. And that is important when you look at your trees and maintain them. Every tree has its unique state at all times, and you simply need to adapt your care for this tree accordingly. So two different things. On the other one, we could work a little bit. We can really already picture the vision for this tree. Here, it's more about getting it back on track before we really start to think about working on it again. So if you enjoyed this video, have any questions about this tree, feel free to leave them in the comments. Of course, also feel free to leave a like. And if you enjoy my channel, feel free to subscribe to it. Hopefully I will see you in the next video then. Until then, take care.